ladies and gentlemen, to Hosanna. A very warm welcome to all our guests and visitors here with us this morning. We trust you will enjoy your time with us. This morning we are looking at life parenting. Do parents make mistakes? We're doing that through the creative arts. That's dance, drama, song, music and spoken word. Right now I invite you all to sit back and relax as we have a team song for you. Put your hands together for them.
Just click it over one more. At this point, we take up our tithes and offerings. Now that, for you, our visitors, our guests, our friends, that is not for you. If you could help us out by just passing the bags along, rows and down the aisles and taking them along, we'd very much appreciate it. But if you would like to put something in bags, then thank you very much. This is something that we as a Christian fellowship are committed to doing, giving back to God something that He has given to us. Right, well, we have something special for you. Next week's flyers, which you should have received, and if you're a new person, you should have received a blue connected with Hosanna card. So please, if you have received one of these, just fill it out and either give it to the person that you came with or put it in the blue box that's out in the foyer. If you can't find that box, then you just give it to someone that's on the stage, then they'll know what to do with it. So thank you very much. We have something else for you. We have something for everybody, a chance to get warm. I heard it was snowing in Tawa this morning, but it's incredibly warm here, and afterwards we can warm our hands even further on a hot cup of tea or coffee further back there. So we'd love to have a chance just to visit with you and get our hands warm and have a drink, a cup of tea or coffee through those double doors at the end of our presentation. Next week we've got something special. Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, Edmund Hillary. What do those names bring to you? Well, next week we are looking at the marks of an extraordinary life here at 6:20. And we've got something else, a special notice for all men who are present here this morning. Could you please, at the end of our presentation, come down the front because Gary would like to speak with all the men. So that's at the end of our special service this morning. But right now, it's an opportunity for all of us to join in, for all of us to stretch our arms, stretch our hands, stretch our vocal cords. So if you'd like to stand up and join with me in welcoming on our music team.
be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy. There are those who curse their fathers and do not bless their mothers. Children's children are a crown to be aged, and parents are the pride of their children.
set your alarm clocks this morning. Well done. I give you a hand myself for that. There's going to be a little group that will arrive just a little bit later than us. When they arrive, they'll probably try to stay out there, but if we can, catch them and bring them in and welcome them. You see, we all make mistakes. Doesn't matter who we are. I'm a parent. My youngest daughter is 21 years old, and we have two girls of 23. They're not twins. Solve that conundrum if you don't know already. You see, the truth of the matter is that through the years of parenting, this is echoing, I'm sure. Through the years of parenting, I know we've made mistakes. I can even identify some of the mistakes we've made. And I'm sure we've made some mistakes that we're not even aware of. The reality is that none of us are perfect, but we'd like to think we're going to get it right. I remember when I was younger, there were lots of books around that were talking about parenting. A hell of a lot of books. And they all talked, in my younger days, when I was a young man, about having this permissiveness, about allowing children to develop. And if they get angry, don't try and stifle the anger, because they need to express it. It's their way of working out who they are. That was the popular philosophy of guys by the names of Watson and Neil and others who were very, very well known as secular writers about parenting. Some of them were people who claimed to be Christians who followed exactly the same lines. And we ended up being raised up under that whole deal. And we had parents who got extremely angry, who literally did nothing to actually help us. So we face a plethora of all sorts of issues in our society because, you see, for thousands and thousands of years, there were some pretty set, clear lines about what was okay and what was not. But in the last 40 years, 50 years, there's no longer any lines. You know, the reality is that the lines are so arbitrary and so sort of all over the place that you even get people who are specialists in this field. People who, for example, work for SIPs or other organisations. You'll talk to one person one day and another person another day from the same organisation, and they'll be drawing totally different lines. And they're all meant to be following policy. And I don't think it's their fault. I think it's our fault. I think it's society's fault. And so what I want to do this morning, for those of you who aren't parents yet, listen and learn. Well, we never had these opportunities when I was younger to be exposed to people working through the issues and talking about them. Our parents never knew how to address the things that needed to be addressed. In fact, they didn't even know what to do themselves. See, when we look at it, this morning, we're looking at parenting mistakes. The mistakes that parents make. I wonder if you've ever wondered when you've looked at some children, and maybe even if you look at yourself in the mirror, whether you've wondered why this has happened, you know? It seems that the parent loses more and more control until the child, in a sense, is bigger than the parent. And it happens all the time. Why? Why does it happen? Well, there are things that we do that create those kinds of environments. I know my daughter, the oldest one, she's not here this morning. She's had to go to working in the hospital. And I remember when she was only very little. I went away one weekend. Pauline rang me in desperation. Her and Adele had been having a little bit of an argument about something. It was really not that great an important issue in some ways, but Pauline's authority as a parent was being challenged. And we had this discussion, and I said, put her on the phone. She's only a little top. She come to the phone and talk to Daddy. She liked to talk to Daddy on the phone. It was a big thing. You know what it's like? Really cute. She gets on the phone. Hello, Daddy. Hello, Mum. I said to Mummy rang me up. Do you know why Mummy rang me up? To talk to Daddy. Good answer. Good one. And we went through this little sort of thing, and I sort of explained to her that mummies and daddies are there to help you with some rules. And when mummy or daddy says, you do this, you do it, or else. And it's not going to be or else when daddy gets home, it's going to be or else. Mummy and Daddy will be supporting each other and giving you some very clear discipline. Now I said it in terms of which she would understand as this little child. I got Pauline back on the phone and we had this discussion, and one of the things we decided was that children, when they're that little, don't need a discussion about some issues. They need a decision. And that's what leadership in the family is all about. And so when I talk about this morning, I want to really make it quite clear there is a very big responsibility. You see, we don't always understand things the way that they should be. We don't always understand the intention behind things. We don't always understand why people do the things they do. See, it's spelled out, perhaps not in the parenting sense, but God is the Father. He's the one perfect Father. There was this guy who decided he'd ask his father, God, some questions. He's talking about his wife because he just had a really bad situation in the family. And he decided to talk to God. And he says, God, this is horrible. Why did I do this? Sitting there thinking about it, suddenly the voice of God came and says, because you're a little bit slow, my son. And then the voice of God says, have you ever thought how lovely and kind-hearted your wife is? After you've just been having a nasty episode in front of his children with his wife. The man stood there and thought for a moment and says, God, why is she so kind-hearted? Why did you make her so kind-hearted? God said, so you could love her, my son. Why did you make her so good-looking, he asked again, thinking about what had happened. He was on a roll with God, and never had this conversation with God before. So you could love her, my son, he said. And why did you make her such a good cook, he queried. God the Father, in very kind words, said, so that you could love her, my son. The man thought about this for quite some time. He said, well, I don't mean to sort of be seeming to be ungrateful or anything, but why did you make her so stupid? So that she could love you, my son. It's all a matter of perspective, isn't it? You see, the reality is when we're parenting, we can be really dumb sometimes. We can be really dumb. And it's only God who has an appreciation of the whole picture. And when he speaks, we go, oh no, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I realise that? Well, part of the reason we don't think or realise these things is because we've never really sought to actually figure it out. We just live week by week, day by day, and when we first had children, I remember when Pauline was pregnant, looking at her. I mean, some of you know my wife, she's only this tall on me. And when she was pregnant, she looked big. And most of you can hide your pregnancy in the first 3 months. Pauline couldn't hide anything. And I looked at her and I looked at the fact that she had a little child of ours inside her. And then I got scared. My policy was a little apprehensive. What am I going to be like as a parent? What am I going to do? What's going to happen? Am I going to fail? Am I going to end up producing the kind of kid I am? Oh dear. No? There's some real reflections in that. And I'm serious. Some of them were pretty horrible. Some of them were just subtle, and we didn't even realise what we were doing sometimes. But unfortunately, there were some good things that happened, which we're really grateful for our children. And I want to publicly say that we are incredibly grateful for all our children. We're just so glad to be able to share and parenting. But I want to talk about some issues. Sometimes we make mistakes with some of these issues, so don't feel that I'm getting up here having a go at you. As I was preparing this, I sat there and reflected about some of the things that have been. Well, the first one I want to raise, the kind of mistakes that we make, I think one of the biggest is the unwise use of time. People spend lots of time gambling or trying to make more money, trying to do this for their family. I recently, in the last few years, I had a friend, a very good friend, a couple of people in fact it was. They got latched into one of these selling programs, big time. I'm not going to name the company, it's just one of those many sort of businesses that they call them. And I talked with these friends of mine, I said to them really meaningfully, hey, you guys have always got babysitters almost every night of the week. You're never there with your children. The answer I got was an answer that this particular group had given them. They had already pre-primed them, they had already planned because they knew one day something would challenge their lack of spending time with their children. They said, oh yes, but we are investing in our children's future. They can sacrifice now and they'll receive great benefits later. Can I tell you something? My response to them was, you don't invest now, you don't reap later. You reap what you sow later, you reap what you sow now. They didn't much like it. We were very good friends, and for a few weeks they were really uncomfortable around me. They found it a little embarrassing to talk to me because if they talked to me, I was likely to say something else again. And I think, I was hopping mad because I saw their children being really badly affected. And I loved them and I loved their kids. And I knew that the lie that had come from their business that they were operating with was one of the ultimate lies about parents. If you earn lots of money now and you give them lots of property and gifts and Christmas presents and all the rest of it, your children will go out there and grateful to you. Well, you only need to go to some very wealthy areas of New Zealand to discover how ungrateful the children that have had so much are. In fact, can I tell you this? They actually sometimes, and I've often heard them say it to me when I've been counselling, they actually hate their parents because they were never there. And these are kids I'm talking about who are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and upwards, who literally hate their parents because they were never there for them. And their parents wonder why their kids end up in trouble. They get involved in drugs and all sorts of other escapistic things, just so that they can try and deal with the pain that exists so deep inside. So unwise use of time means that we don't give the good usage of our time to our children. The second one I want to touch on this morning is threatening and delaying discipline. I've heard parents say, you wait till your father gets home. I don't very often hear, you wait till your mother gets home. You know why, guys? It's because the women spend a lot more time with the children than the men do. And the pressure's so great because the men have often not been willing to actually really help develop a strategic plan in their family, which is going to mean that good discipline and regular discipline will happen in an appropriate way. Let me say, before any of you start jumping on me, some of you are going to ask the question, do I believe in snacking? Yes, I do. I believe in it very firmly. I disagree with the social policies that are being proposed by some members of Parliament at the moment. But I don't believe in snacking for the wrong reasons. And I don't believe You only should ever dish out any form of discipline with very, very good reason. I know school, the twice that I got into very serious trouble at school, I didn't get caught some other occasions, I must admit. Looking back, I know why I did it. And I had teachers who used to threaten me, and there were 3 teachers I would never ever misbehave for. There was Willie Evans, who was an international soccer player. Some of you who are old enough to know who he was. One of the top guys in the world at the time. There was Dennis Young, who was an All Black block. And he had the ears to went with it. And there was a guy we called Clarky, who initially we thought we could get away with a lot. But we discovered we couldn't. Those 3 teachers in my high school years, I would not wriggle a finger in their class or dare to speak to somebody else. Because when they said, I will discipline you, they meant, I will discipline you. I will do it straight away, and I will exercise my right to do it well. Now, Dennis Young, I must admit, was a little bit unusual in the fact that he was very, very physically strong. And I feared him. I feared him because we knew that with the left-hand, backhand cane, he could draw blood. He was forbidden from caning after a while. Didn't know his own strength. But I knew he would discipline if he said, I remember taking a huge risk once. If he'd caught us, we would have been almost killed, I think. As a class of two classes of boys had gone to class to find that Dennis was late to the class. He had a trauma thing happen in the start. And he arrived late in the classroom. He arrived into the classroom to find these boys hiding behind the woodwork benches, throwing chisels and spikes at each other and ducking. Now Dennis Young told them that at lunchtime break he was going to cane the whole lot. 2 classes of boys. And he did. He lined them up. And we stood just in the little lobby, you know the old school thing. We stood in the lobby where all the lockers are, in a little side room where Dennis Young couldn't see us, and as the boys filed past this little gap in the lockers, there was a little group of us standing there saying, he's going to kill you. And they were crying before they even got there. He generated fear and respect, but you cannot do that in a family. Let me tell you, it doesn't work. I've seen so many parents do it, and I've got to be honest and say I suffered at the hands of that kind of discipline. And I was an angry young man. I was incredibly angry. But I don't think you correct the problem by changing social policy and forbidding all people from smacking their children. Because those same violent people will still commit the same violent acts. Policy will not change the nature of person. And so what I'm really saying is, if you're threatening or delaying discipline, what you will eventually do, you will eventually explode in some shape, form or another. And it will not be discipline, it will just be expressed anger that is black all over your kids. And you're really pushing them into the ground. And that's what happens. Or, the other choice is that you may not ever explode like that. You may just be Mr. or Mrs. Compliant for the rest of your life, and your children will be absolutely destroyed because they do not have any clearly defined actions that need to be taken to teach them how to live. And this is all about living. You see, parenting is all about teaching our children how to live. Next one, disciplining for the wrong reasons. You know, one of the things I really believe that we need to watch out for is that we don't discipline for the wrong reasons. You see, the issue that we face in terms of disciplining for the wrong reasons is that if we do it, if we discipline do it. They never intended to do it. And that's a question one needs to ask oneself when you're addressing these things. Did this child intend to do this wrong? You can say, I told you this would happen. And you may have done that. If you had clearly said to them, in this room, these are the things you are not allowed to do, and if you do them, then there will be some measure of discipline given to you, whether taking pocket money off them, which is the most powerful one you can give to children who are between the ages of 10 and 15. Make sure they don't have anything to spend and don't really give them an ice cream instead. Go hold firm. I was a softie. Johanna or Adele, when they were little, would look at me. They'd be naughty when they'd been naughty. No. We'd go somewhere. Daddy, can you make an ice cream? I'll be a good girl from now on. No. I remember those words so clearly. And Daddy would very foolishly sometimes reward me for Amy by giving him an ice cream and I should not. I did that now and again, and Pauline would get me in a corner and say, why did you do that? Really what I was trying to do was repent the way that I handled the situation. I actually sometimes didn't handle the situation too well. Ask them. Don't ask them too much information. Don't give them too much information, girls. No, but the truth of the matter is that's the way it is. You know, disciplining for the wrong reasons is just not a deal to do. See, children only need discipline if it's something that is seriously wrong, that is challenging your authority as a parent, or is transgressing the boundaries of other people's safety, other people's well-being, other people's personal health, whether it be in their mind or their physical health. They transgress in those areas that they need to be dealt with. But you know, one of the reasons I ended up being like what I was is just as our story told you this morning. Because we copy our parents. We do. And our children are going to be like us. If we people who are telling our children to shut up all the time, and then one day they turn around to you when you're talking too much and they're trying to communicate and you're not listening, and they say, Dad, Mum, shut up! Don't be surprised. They're a perfect mirror reflection of everything you say and do. The trouble is, when you look in the mirror, you see some cracks. And you realise that the cracks are you. It's not a cracker. It's not funny. It's sad. And, you know, don't tell your children to not swear. You're going to swear. I mean, if you want to swear, that's up to you. But don't expect your children to grow up being little angels and lovely people. Because they won't. They'll copy you. So, it's important to make sure that we're not disciplining for the wrong reasons. We need to be disciplining only for the right reasons. We need to carefully work through what those reasons are. If any of you are really stuck, I haven't got time to do it, I could do a whole message on this. If you're really stuck, ask someone. I'm happy to sit down and talk with you. You know, in the whole process, we don't want to dump stuff on people. You walk out the door and say, oh man, it's too big, I didn't get my head around all of it. Okay. Lord, we straight away make a decision. Then the other one is planning for failure. I talked a little bit about that in terms of the swearing thing and that. But the attitude you portray on the telephone. You know, I've seen so many parents say to their children, don't tell lies. If the telephone rings, shortly afterwards. And the wife yells at the husband, dear, I'm not in if it's Aunt Mary. Answer phone, I'm sorry, Aunt Mary, she's not in right now. You maybe would be better to call in 2 or 3 days. Maybe in 5 years' time would be better, but they don't say that. So what do we teach our children when we do that? See, we actually teach our children that it's actually okay to lie. I think it's far better to say, look, I'm sorry, And that's an okay decision. I used to really struggle with this immensely. One of the things that became a little destructive to our family life, when you're a pastor, you have huge pressure put on you that other people generally don't have. There are other sector societies that do have it, but not very many. One of the ones was we lived right here, right where some of you are sitting. Some of our family slept right where you're sitting. We've moved the house away. It's right next to the church. And people come pounding on the door each day, hour and night, and my day off they'd turn up. I'd try and hide in the workshop. It used to be at the back here, the shed, and do something. They'd come bashing on that door too. They'd have a lathe going. In the end, I actually learned that not only was my day off, but with some other times where I needed to spend time with my children, I'd write an appointment in my diary. And people would ring up and say, I've got an appointment at such and such time. And I'm sorry, I've got an appointment there already. And it was with my family. I struggled with that because I felt as if I should do what everybody wanted me to do. And sometimes I blew it. And some of the older ones around here will tell you, I blew it plenty of times. Okay, I can see. But I learned, with the encouragement of some of them, by the way, too. Pat who's our over here, she knew how to tell Gary off nicely. I didn't always find it that easy to hear. But they would remind me. Some of the others on board in the church now. Here still, they would say things to me now and again. They're just a little concerned. They want to revolve it. Hey, you know, one of the strengths of the Christian community is that people can actually talk to each other about good things that are hard to talk about. Because, you see, there's kind of permission because the Bible says that God's people are allowed to talk to each other about different stuff. You don't have that option in the secular world, except if you choose it. And I don't think many people are really willing to want to choose that. I certainly didn't want to. But you've got to be careful, you don't plan for failure. See, you can plan for failure by being abusive with your husband and wife. You can plan for failure with your children by the attitude you carry about your boss at work. If you come home and you're always on about, oh, you know, my bosses are useless. Think ahead, guess what's going to happen? When your child goes to work, their boss is going to be useless, thickhead before they even had a chance to prove themselves. I hate to say it, and some people say, I know people measure people according to who they are. No, they don't. They measure people according to their predispositions, their presuppositions already in their mindsets. It's clear. We don't always realise the consequences. In the Old Testament, there's a story about a prophet who used to wander around. He was bald. And the reason we know he was bald is because a group of kids thought it was funny. His parents had lost control of their children and had taught them bad modelling. And these children walked along throwing stones at this prophet and calling him baldy, baldy, baldy. You know what the consequences of it were, and I think we ought to all take serious warning about this. The consequences of those parents not having control of their children was that, in the end, God sent a she-bear out, and she mauled those killed kids and killed them. So God was unfair. Hello? Who was unfair? The parents were unfair. If the kids hadn't been there doing wrong things, the she-bear wouldn't have killed them. It might have killed the prophet instead, but it might have. Alright? See, the reality is, if we plan for failure, our children are going to relate that, they're going to portray it, they're going to communicate. And, if we plan for failure, we can do it so easily. If you are too embarrassed, let me say this carefully. If you are too embarrassed to give your wife a kiss, or your husband a kiss, in front of your children, you are modeling bad stuff. You are really planning for failure for children. Because if they don't know how to cope with good expressions of love, then they're never going to. Now and again, I admit, our children used to say, and they still say, in fact, the other day, one of their girls called Pauline and I in the kitchen and embracing each other and having a really lovely kiss with each other. One of them walks in the door, opens the door, door goes closed. That's okay. It's okay. The first few times it's embarrassing, especially if they come from the true. But the first few times it's really embarrassing. Good off with the ladies. You've got to be prepared to actually plan for success for your children. Teach them how to love by being loving. Pretty obvious. Okay, the next one. I talked a little bit about this one before. I said it's all in the attitude. Planning for failure is all in the attitude with you. Okay, I talked about the line thing and the modelling line, and I didn't mean to earlier, so I'm just going to skip a slide. Here we go. Buying into pop worldviews on raising children. I mentioned earlier about Neil and Watson, and there's a few other people around. Most of you know Dr. Spock and all the rest of the things, although he's been seriously maligned at points because he's publicly put a disclaimer against some of the things that he was spoken for having been perceived. And he said, I didn't say those things, so be a little careful about what people say about him. There are some things that he said that were not good. They were permissive or infamous. But there are a number of others, and Neil and Watson in particular had probably even greater influence than Dr. Spock did. That's not the one on the television, by the way. And one of the things that happens is that when people actually read the latest book in the book, let's be honest, that the Bible actually says there's nothing new under the sun. And it's true. And there's thousands of years of experience of parenting, and suddenly some guru comes along and says, that's not the way to do it, I can do it better. Oh, I've got to question the integrity of that, because there's been thousands, in fact millions of parents over the years who've proven those things to be untrue. And more recently, one of the sad things that happened in our society when the post-war thing happened after the Second World War, and all these children rose up about the rebellion. Some of those people are trying to lead our community today. I remember some of the ones. Some of the guys who were at university when I was a young man and in my trade, who caused all sorts of ruckus and marches and all sorts of aggressive things to happen in our country. But if you knew anything about their family, you actually knew where it came from. It wasn't a political agenda. It wasn't real concern for people who were hurting overseas, so many of them. The real issue was rebellion. They used those things as excuses, but the real issue in those children's lives, and they are children, even though they were becoming adults, was rebellion. And I can tell you, the same guys who did the marches were interfering with the drugs. The same guys who claimed social justice needed to happen were some of the ones who created some of the worst social injustices with their fellow students at the university. The same ones who wanted people to respect them show to this day no respect to others. And they demand it because that's what they learned in their homes and their families, and their parents have bought into these popular worldviews. You see, the reality is, we can buy into popular worldviews, don't know what type of popular worldview it is. And look, some of them aren't written about books, they are just popular. You know the old classic thing? You see the lady up here? If you're going to get your way with your children, the best way to do it is like this. Well, what does that do? The kids grow up going, and nobody sees any real change. What's far better to do? What would be a better option in that particular situation? I'm not going to give you easy answers here. I think you need to sit down and say, in this situation, what is the most appropriate thing I should do? You don't just set a line and say, this is how I'll react. And some of you set lines on how you're going to react, not because you're planning, just because you keep doing the same thing and you get through that. It does take some effort, and I know some of you here will say, but I don't have the personality that you do, Gary, or somebody else has. So I don't know, my temperament's different, and so I can excuse myself this. No way! I'm not going to let you off with that. Otherwise you'll have to let me off with some stuff. And I'm sure you wouldn't let me off with some stuff. If I became, for example, a person who disrespected all of you here in some way and thought, oh, stuff it, I don't feel like going to church and preaching this morning, even though I should be, so I'm going to stay home. And I didn't turn up, and you all sat here. I know what you would think. And you would hold me accountable. Well, every one of us needs to be accountable to each other. And you have the right to call me accountable. It has nothing to do with my temperament, it has to do with responsibility. And you see, the worldviews that we define are actually not necessarily good. In fact, most of the modern ones I've seen are certainly not healthy. Then let's look at the next one. Inadequate relationships. When we have a situation where the wife has been sitting at home, having a meal at home, a romantic dinner all set up, I know she doesn't look that romantic, that one, but the truth of the matter is, none of us look like great dogs very often. There's one or two people that do. But she's angry. She's angry because he wasn't there. And what happens? The children see it. And a parenting mistake we often have is to explode and to allow our stuff to spill out on our kids. I've heard parents say, if your father had been here, things would have been different. Or your father was never here. I'm grateful to my wife. I'm very grateful to my wife. She could have said that to the children. Sometimes the children said it to me when there were occasions when I had funerals or somebody died in hospital and I had to be there night after night after night, hour after hour sometimes in hospitals. I sat with people as they were dying. We'd sit down and talk with our children a couple of times and say, look, there's some things that are really, really important to be there for people. And when a person's dying and I know and they've got no friends and family, whatever, we just can't be there. That's not fair. And it's going to take a bit of time out of our life right now, but can you stand with me? Can you be with me some? On one or two occasions, when the children were younger, the one or two people they knew, I actually intentionally took them into hospital with me. Because I thought it was a good learning experience for them to be with us as people going through the journey of death or journey of sickness. We had bad experience with that. We had one situation where a lady didn't respect us. This lady said that she loved us deeply and loved our children like later when we were our children and all the rest of it. And she'd been in hospital with a very serious disease. It was contagious. She'd been in isolation. One day she said to me, I've been cleared of isolation. I'm no longer in isolation and I'd love to see your girls. So I took my girls in there, believing what she said. I got into the ward, we'd been in the room with the lady for a wee time, and the lady doctor who was in charge of her case came walking in and exploded all over me. What the hell are you doing here? I said, it's told her. And I realised it wasn't true. This person that we've been caring for so much let us down. But you see, even now, my children, our family really is about being careful about trusting people, even people who think they trust someone else. We need to be very wise. Okay. Another mistake that people make is that they're not quite living by not verbally telling the children you love them. The number of people I know that actually talk about the fact that they have never been told by their father or their mother or by both of their parents that they are loved by them is unreal. I'm one of those children. And I realised looking back as to why I became who I was when I was younger, because I actually never felt loved. And I think my mum and dad were trying to love me. I know, looking back historically now, I can think of times where I think they were actually trying to express their love. But I didn't understand it without the words. And I became angry. And I became very seriously angry. It's important to hug your children and to say, I love you. Men, listen to this. Women learn this far easier than men. Men, it is inconceivable that we could hope that our children would grow up to love our grandchildren if we don't tell our children that we love them. And I mean regularly. I'm not talking about once every 6 months or once every 5 years. I can't even think it's good enough this week. I've learned to tell my children I love them. It was hard learning because it wasn't part of my life. It felt unnatural. It felt almost wrong. I going to abuse, that's not what causes it. Because they've got a problem they've got to deal with. You don't need to live with those things. If you get love and balance, and it's proper, and it's appropriate, your children will love you, and it'll be a great time that you have together. And even if you make some mistakes, the fact that you told them you love them, that will make a big difference between you having a healthy childhood and an unhealthy one. So, you know, the fact that you can tell them you love them and mean it, it can overcome all sorts of obstacles and barriers that you can face in other areas of life. But men are not good at doing it, and some women are not good at doing it. So, one of the mistakes we can make is not telling our children that we love them. I've got a couple more here. I think one of the biggest mistakes is not to establish clear boundaries. If your children never know when things are going to go, and they're going to get something happening, can I show you something? With children, when they misbehave, and they misbehave a little bit one time and they get away with it, and they misbehave a big bit another time and they get away with it. Sometimes when they misbehave a little bit, they get disciplined severely, but when they misbehave a big bit, they don't get disciplined at all, they get wrong messages. And one of the worst things you can possibly do, can I say this really clearly, is use hands for discipline. Whack! And Derek knew it was coming. He keeps giving me one of those looks in his eyes and saying, I know you're going to upset yet. We learned very early in peace, in fact, before we had children. My sister-in-law was tragically drowned just after Del was born. She went to this course. She wasn't a Christian. She went along this Christian course. She actually ended up through the Spirit becoming a Christian. And one of the things they taught her, she was a solo parent, was that hands are for loving, not for smacking. Because what happens, if your hands are used for spanking and for loving, every time you reach out to your child, they're not sure what's going to happen. They're not sure what's going to happen. The Bible actually doesn't condone smacking with the hands at all. It doesn't anywhere mention smacking with the hands. It talks about using a rod. And before you start getting carried away, presuming it's a rod with a law, you know? It was a controlled thing, and very, very well ordered in their society. It was well structured, well thought through. It wasn't just an arbitrary thing like it just happened because of the confusion that's been in this society. If you use your hands to smack it, every time you go near your kids, what are those hands for? Because they're for loving and stuff. Now the hand sure has to hold the rod, but the hand's not being used to smack. So they know it's only when the rod's here that something's going to happen. That is very helpful to the child. We used to use wooden spoons. Yeah. They didn't break very easy with my wife, she's so little. But one of the things that happened when we were living here, I made this big toy box for the girls, big double-lidded thing. And when Johanna decided she wanted to take over her own bedroom, which had been the toy room, we had to clear the room out and remove this big toy box. And behind the toy box, there were 9 wooden spoons. They had been hiding them. They knew what they were for, so Mum can't bake cakes with them and smack us if we hide them. She still somehow managed to bake cakes. And we were very controlled about it. But the boundaries were clearly established in our family. We had, one of the things we did do right, we made some very clear boundaries, what is right and what is wrong. And our children knew where they were, and if they pushed past them, they knew there were consequences. And they knew exactly what the consequences would be. They didn't have any idea it was going to be arbitrary, except on 1 or 2 occasions when I blew it a little bit. On my own, I think probably Pauline probably did too. I can own what I did. But 90% of the time or so, we had these clear boundaries. The girls knew that if they crossed those boundaries, there were consequences, and exactly what the consequences were. There's one of them yelling at amen. She remembers. Got too big to smack now, she'll probably smack me. And you apply them differently, but the main thing is you do apply them so that you are the authority of your child's life. You are the parents in that sense. You see, the reality is, if we don't establish clear boundaries, what will happen? Resentment will build in the child. If we don't establish clear boundaries, what will happen? It will be humiliating to the child in the end. Because they don't know when it's going to happen, and will end up humiliated by saying, "You stupid nitwit!" And if you say it often enough, or the one I got, "You're useless." I've got to say, I grew up with this perception that I was useless for years and years and years. And it wasn't until I became a Christian that the whole thing turned upside down. I was interested, a couple of nights ago I was talking to my mother, and for the first time ever she acknowledged that it was my Christian conversion that turned me around. She actually raised it herself. She said, "You know, when you're at school," she said, "you're a dismal failure in maths in the fourth form," and she said, "then you grew up and you changed." And I said to Mum, "Yeah, it was more than me just growing up, though, wasn't it, Mum?" And she didn't sort of make much of a comment. And I said, "Mum, when you really think about it, that's when I became a Christian, isn't it? I mean, that's when the life change really happened." And my mum said, "Yeah, it was. That's what it was." And it must be hard for them right now because my brothers and sisters not finding life too easy. Part of it's because they didn't have the privilege of what had happened to me with things significant. I've been unmanaged, abuse. Well, we do it in sorts of ways, and I'm not even going to try and explore it. We'll talk about so much of society that we need to deal with. A child can be in a family and feel like they're in a desert. Because we need to make sure that we do treat them well, that we do respect them as individuals. Children thrive best in an atmosphere of genuine love undergirded by reasonable, consistent discipline. The permissive bent of social developmental behaviour has failed us. So let's look at it differently. And I just want to cover some action points very briefly. The first action point is make counterculture decisions. Go against the things that you've learned that you know from the day are damaging. The second one is give time for love. Give time for love. And that means give time to the children, give time thinking about how you can do it, give time. Give time talking with your husband or wife, or if you're in an unfortunate position to not be still in a relationship, then find somebody who can help you. Work it through. Don't try doing it on your own, it's too difficult. And then the last one, and I want to touch on this really strong. If you're going to do a good job of parenting, I reckon you need to give time to looking seriously at the way that God would want us to raise our kids. See, we had a scripture reading today that said that people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful and unholy. That was a prophetic word that was spoken many years ago, about 2,000 years ago. Another one that was spoken more than 2,000 years, about 2,700, 2,900 years ago, says there are those who curse their fathers and do not bless their mothers. Why is it they're like that? Because their fathers are like what they do. And then there's another one, the proverb that Anne finished reading for us this morning. Children's children are a crown to the age, and parents are the pride of their children. But what kind of pride will they have? And what type of crown will they be? And I think some parents go around hearing as a consequence of their mistakes that they've made, they're wearing crowns of thorns on their head, not crowns of gold. So it's true that children's children are a crown to the age, because we'll wear the crown that we have made, that we have woven into the lives of our children. We will wear that crown and we'll suffer the consequences. And so we need to be people who are going to be aware of some of the things. You see, a child arrived just the other day, he came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to
Once are going to have families up there. Make sure that your children are going to be like the dad or the mum that you would want to have. Make sure that they are. I want to read another part of the song. Have I ever told you that I'm sorry it didn't work out? Have I ever told you that I'm sorry that I walked out? Have I ever told you that I'm sorry that I didn't think about how it was going to make you feel? If you have messed up, then you may need to say sorry. There's no need to leave it as it be, even if your children are growing up and are adults today. Say sorry if you know what to do. Let's talk to God together. If you'd like to talk to Him, then you can say amen. You know, instead of say, well, people said. If you want to agree with me, don't be let's here. Don't be hypocrite. You should do it. Father God, we want to come to you this morning, and we want to say that we haven't always understood how good a parent you are to us. We believe the images that some of the people who proposed different parenting models have complained about you. Some people have painted you as a permissive God, and others have painted you as a harsh God. But Lord, we know when we really seriously look at who you are in Scripture, and when we allow you to experience it, for us to experience you, that you turn out to be an incredible Father. Lord God, I know how true that is. You're being a father to me in a way that no man could ever have been. Teach us, Lord, how to be parents that go together. We'd like to invite you to assist us because we know in ourselves we have had failings in our past in our own families, and we carry failings at times in our own lives. And we need to break the pattern. And we're sorry for the times when you have been spoken to us and we've ignored you. We've done things wrong. So we ask you this morning to help us to be people who are going to be transformed, who are going to make a difference in this world because of the children that we have and that we raise. A difference that will be so positive that others will want to say, oh, I'd love to have my children like this. So help us, we pray, in Jesus' name. And all of them were said? Amen. All of them were said? Amen. Let's give a big hand to the team that have the reading. We've got a celebration service tonight at 6:30. If you want to come along, you're welcome. Have a great day. Remember me, I would really like to talk to the men who are part of the church here, or any other men who would like to come. Just briefly, Greg and I need to talk to you very briefly. Straight up to